I'm really happy to be here. Sorry I'm a minute late. But, ev- oh, okay. So I thought what I would do first is give you a report from the front. How many of you were at my event last night? Okay, like a few of you. But between last night and tonight, everything changes every day. It's crazy. And I do have one thing to say, which is taco. Trump always chickens out. And two, of course, you saw what he saw said his cheerful Easter greeting to everybody on Sunday, and then of course his threat on Monday, which is probably in violation of international law, not to mention decorum, to obliterate Iran. And then when Pakistan, who knew Pakistan would be our knight in shining armor, riding to the rescue to negotiate a 2-week ceasefire, although now today that appears to be very, very shaky because, can you hear me? Okay, is that better? The ceasefire appears to be very shaky because there's still violence in the region. And my favorite part of what happened today was, I guess Iran said they were opening the Straits of Hormuz, but at the same time, no ships were going through. Several were stranded there, and the president, he says he's trying to make a deal with Iran that the fees that are charged to the ships in the Straits of Hormuz, which have never been charged before, we would now split. We would cut a deal and we would split. This is what we are dealing with at the national level, my friends. And in the meantime, the other thing I saw on the news, all of us are the only ones who still watch the news, by the way. But the other thing I saw, okay, sorry. The other thing I saw is that gas prices are not going to go down for quite some time. Colorado, Denver actually has lower gas prices than a lot of the country, but they're still over $4 on average. Food prices are not going to go down because the cost of fertilizer has gone up, and that's going to continue throughout the summer, and on and on and on. And so, Donald Trump caused this war. It was illegal. He didn't come to Congress for war powers. And then he says, "Good news! I've negotiated a 2-week ceasefire." But this is not helping with the cost of living for regular Americans like us. And next week, I just got an email from my leadership, from the Democratic leadership in the House. Next week, we are bringing up another war powers resolution, which will say he cannot continue this war unless he comes to Congress for authorization. And you can clap for that. So query, what will my Republican colleagues do? Because the Democrats, we have now 215 votes in the House. The Republicans only have a 3-vote majority. And people say to me, "Why haven't I seen you at Windsor Gardens for a while?" It's like, because I have this job that you elected me to do. And it is in Washington, D.C., and I have to be there for every single vote, along with every other Democrat, because we actually could win some of these votes if the Republicans don't show up. But also, even if they do show up, it puts every single one of them, looking at you, Gabe Evans, on the record. And so we will be there, we will vote for war powers, and we will hold their feet to the fire. Every day, Donald Trump is violating the law. He is enacting he's signing executive orders trying to do illegal things. He's being blocked in the courts, and this is why, I don't know if you saw my video that I did. I think that he needs to be removed by the cabinet under the 25th Amendment. However, everybody in this room, like me, took civics, unlike my kids, but we all took civics. Remember, under the 25th Amendment, the cabinet needs to vote to remove the president. I don't have a lot of faith there. I'm just being honest. I served with Mark Wayne Mullen, for example, very nice guy, maybe not that guy who's going to get out on a limb to say this president is mentally incompetent to serve. And so what that means, we have to go back to Congress. And some of you know, I served as first of all, the first impeachment, I presided over the entire impeachment proceeding. The second impeachment, I was an impeachment manager, and I already told Leader Jeffries, I am at your service. Whatever you need me to do for the next impeachment, he needs to be removed from office. So that's sort of the emergency right now. But the war. But the other emergency is he's going to be coming to Congress for authorization for $53 billion for this war. I'm going to vote no. And I think a lot of people are giving a lot of pause to this because, of course, under their big bad bill, H.R. 1, that they passed last summer, they gave huge increases to defense while cutting programs like Medicaid, child care, food safety, and I could go on and on. Housing. And so enough is enough. In the budget that he's presenting to Congress this week, again, he proposes more cuts to health care, more cuts to biomedical research, more cuts to child care, housing, all of the safety net things that we rely on in our communities. That budget is dead on arrival, I want to tell you. Last year, people say, well, what are the Democrats doing? Well, we are in the minority, but by sticking together, we're actually getting a lot done. In the budget last year, if you'll recall, he proposed a 40% cut to domestic programs, including biomedical research at the NIH. We said no. And you didn't see this in the press, but in the final budget that we passed, we actually had even money or even increases in some places, and none of the what we call the poison pill writers, abortion bans and so on, because we stuck together and we said we wouldn't do it. So we plan to do that again. But I'd really like to have a gavel next year, and that's what I want to talk to you about. So, and many of you have heard me say this. I'm the senior Democrat on the Health Subcommittee of the Energy and Commerce now. I didn't get to that position easily or quickly, but I'm there now. And next year, when we take the majority, I will be the chair of that subcommittee. We have jurisdiction over all of healthcare policy, Medicaid, Medicare, the NIH, CDC, FDA, children's health, everything like that. Not only will I have the ability to set the agenda next year and to move towards single-payer health care, to reduce prescription drug costs, to lead that effort, I also will have oversight and subpoena authority. I was thinking about, yes, and I was thinking about that yesterday when I found out RFK Jr. is going to be in front of my committee the week after next. So I don't know if you have any more of these little cards, CL, but I'm taking ideas for what people think I should talk to RFK Jr. about. And tune in. We will. How many of you get my newsletter? Okay. So all the rest of you, sign up for my newsletter. We don't. We send it out once a week, although we may send it out more often with this. We send it to you. It's what I'm doing. It's what's happening in Washington. But also, we don't use it for campaigning. We don't sell it to people or anything like that. It's purely for you to get information. And I will let you know in my newsletter when that hearing will be so that you can tune in and watch. And it's not just me. I'm the leader because I'm the ranking Democrat. But I have 15 fantastic Democrats on that committee that I've sort of handpicked to help me, including AOC and others. And so what we will do, we'll get together before the hearing, we will plan our attack. And by the end, RFK Jr. is going to be really sorry he came over to see us on the House Energy and Commerce Committee. So that's sort of what I'm working on right now. And do you want me to just answer questions? Okay. I will also say, because it's campaign time, and I know you've already seen both of my other opponents, I would ask you for your support in this election. This is an impactful election for all of us. And I think that right now is the time we need leaders in Washington who will stand up against Donald Trump, who have the experience doing that, who have the leadership and the right positions to do that. And then when we take the majority in November, who will have the power to actually make these changes. And I think I've told a lot of people this. I welcome new leadership in the House. I think it's important to have a mix of both. And you will never hear me say, elect me because of seniority. I don't think seniority means one thing. I have colleagues who sit there and do nothing in Congress, and they're senior. That's not me. I'm the one that's down on the floor fighting. I'm the one that's in the committee asking RFK Jr. the tough questions. I'm the one that's combing through the budget to make sure there's no abortion riders in there because I'm the co-chair of the Reproductive Freedom Caucus. And I'm the one, when we get the majority, who will have the power to bring all that legislation to the floor. And I'm also mentoring many junior members like AOC and many other people. And I think that's what we need in Congress right now. So I would ask you for your support. The primary is June 30th. And I would also ask you, if you're interested in volunteering, we'd love it. And this is Bradley right here, my political director. You can talk to him afterwards. Okay, I'm going to, the first one is explain Amendment 25. Can we effectively use against Trump? I think I did explain that. So, okay, here's the next one. I love all these because all of you took penmanship in school, just like I did. You know, they don't teach them. Do you remember? Over the last years, as Israel under Netanyahu has been increasingly, a conservative government has gone further right. Now some Democrats have decided that they must change their position and support for Israel. Let's see. Who asked this question? Tell me the last sentence, Mike.
Has your own sentiment towards it begun to evolve? And I think that in the past we've taken some APAC money. Do you think it will continue?
Okay, so the question is, has my support for Israel continued to evolve? And in the past, I took APAC money, and will I continue to do so? Mike, thank you for that question. I have always been firm on my position on Israel. I believe that we need to have a two-state solution. I believe the Palestinians need a state, and I believe the Israelis need a state. I condemn violence against civilians, including the civilians in Gaza, and I also believe that we need to have we need to have extensive humanitarian aid and rebuilding in Gaza, and I believe the United States should help support that. I also am deeply disturbed by the expansion of the settlements on the West Bank, because in the past, before Netanyahu became so far to the right, the Israeli government stopped those settlements from expanding, and as they do expand under the approval of the Israeli government, it makes it harder to get a two-state solution, and it's less humane for the Palestinians. So recently, I decided that I was not going to vote for any additional offensive aid to Israel. And that is my position on Israel. With respect to AIPAC money, there have been many false claims made against me and taking AIPAC money. AIPAC started a PAC only about 2 or 3 terms in Congress ago, and before the October 6th attacks. AIPAC did send me a check a couple of terms ago in the primary for $2,900. And I put that in, and it was put into my account. And then after that, after the attacks and what happened in Gaza, I said, I am not taking any additional AIPAC money, and I have not taken any additional AIPAC money. My opponents have put out a lot of false information. The most recent information I saw said that I had taken hundreds of thousands of dollars from AIPAC. I don't even know. I've challenged them to say, where do you even get that data? Where do you even get that claim? And they never will tell you. I have suspicions where they get that number, but it's false. And that's sort of where I stand on Israel. So I hope that helps to clarify my position. Thank you. Next, is the U.S., oh, well, this is sort of similar. Is the U.S. ever going to say enough is enough to Israel? Having survived the Holocaust does not give them the right to do anything they want forever. I agree. Congresswoman, can you please address the rumor your two opponents continuing to run in their campaign that you have only passed 2 bills during your tenure? Veronica, I have to tell you, I have heard this rumor, and it is probably the thing that has infuriated me the most about what these folks have said, because most of you have known me in my career, and I am proud and I am well known in Washington as being a top legislator. And anybody who says this just has no knowledge of how Congress works. And I will give you a couple of examples of this. When I was first elected to Congress in 1990, I started in 1997. I had a young aide come to me, and she said, and I was really lucky and also smart. I got on Energy and Commerce as a freshman. I'm the last member of Congress that got on to this huge committee as a freshman. And she came to me and she said that they want to do, it was, believe it or not, the last Clinton administration. They want to do a bill for kids' health care, the CHIP, the Children's Health Insurance Program. Nobody is working on this. I was a freshman. Nobody is working on this. So do you think you could make children's health one of your big signature issues? So I did. I took on the CHIP program. I helped write the bill. I helped pass the bill. And to this date, it has given health care insurance to millions of children. It's one of the most popular programs in the federal government. You won't see my name on that bill because I was just a freshman. I only helped do the bill. And there's many other examples of that. Another example I think is kind of amusing that I tell people. How many of you know about my 21st Century Cures bill that I did? This is a bill I did a few years ago, and it was a bill I did with a Republican, Fred Upton. I was in the minority. He came to me. He was the chair of Energy and Commerce, and he came to me and he said, Diana, there's all this incredible new research out there on cancer research, Alzheimer's, diabetes, so many diseases. He said, I want a partner who can help me in a bipartisan way pass this bill to restructure the way we do drug and device research at the NIH, and then approvals at the FDA, and Joe Biden's cancer moonshot, all of this stuff, and $2 billion for research. Will you be my partner in this? So I said, absolutely. So we worked on it for several years. We brought all the stakeholders together, all of the patient groups, the investors, the hospitals, everybody. We even talked to the pharmaceutical companies, and believe it or not. But, huh? Yeah, I got all that money, but they're not going to like to see my next bill. But my point is, I worked with all of these different groups and Fred, and we came up with a revolutionary bill. One of the things this bill did is it gave the FDA the authorities to make the partnerships to do the approvals for the COVID vaccine when COVID hit. Imagine that. And so we did this bill. Well, number one, my name was not first on that bill because I was in the minority and Fred was the chairman of the committee. I was just a member. But also, this is why you need people in leadership who know what they're doing. We worked on this bill and we worked on this bill. We finally passed it through the House. We got it to the Senate. It was in the lame duck session when, in the final days of Obama's presidency, when Trump had won, we finally figured out how to get it through the Senate. Don't get me started on the Senate. But we finally figured out how to get it through the Senate. But we had to do it in a way that it didn't have to go back to the House. This might be too much information, but I just want to show you how it works. So we had to find a bill to attach 21st century cures to. And so the bill we found, it was a tsunami relief bill. And it was sponsored by my friend Suzanne Bonamici from Oregon. So we stripped all the tsunami relief from her bill, and we put 21st century cures in there. So if you go look online, it'll say Suzanne Bonamici was the author of 21st century cures. I did apologize to her later. And I said, Suzanne, I think you should take credit. But my point is, that's how you pass legislation. And in addition, being in Congress isn't just about passing legislation. As I told you, I presided over the first impeachment trial. Nancy Pelosi asked me to do that because she knew I could keep order and do it. Nancy then asked me to be the impeachment manager for the second impeachment trial. And as the co-chair of the Reproductive Freedom Caucus with Ayanna Pressley from Massachusetts, I was able, after the Dobbs decision, I was able to put together the votes to pass a bill on the House floor that would put Roe versus Wade into law so that everybody in the country would have the same rights we have here in Colorado. We passed that bill. So I called Nancy on her cell phone the day after Dobbs, and I said, Nancy, we have the votes. I've been counting them, and please put the bill on the floor next week. And she said, okay, she did. We passed it through the House, and then, once again, the Senate. And so now what I'm doing, along with my co-chairs and my coalition, I think when we win the House in November, we will be able to pass this on the floor again. My challenge is, how do I deal with the 60-vote filibuster rule in the Senate? And so what I'm doing is I'm working with my Senate allies to try to figure out a way, and we have some good ideas about how to get around that in the Senate. Now, that's what a good legislator does. And so, but even so, I've already passed 3 bills this year. One, a bill on maternal mortality to try to figure out why Black women die. Maybe you know about this. Black women, no matter their socioeconomic background, education, anything, die at a much higher rate in childbirth than anybody else. So I'm working with a coalition of my colleagues to try to figure out why that is and what we can do to stop it. I passed that bill as I put it into the budget bill this year and passed it as well as 2 diabetes bills. So that's how you're a good legislator, and that's why I have been effective. And also, that's why if you elect somebody who's passionate, and I don't say that my opponents are not passionate about the issues, they are, but when they come into Congress, they're going to be number 435. They're not even going to be on the Energy and Commerce Committee, and they're not not going to be able to call the leader, whoever it is, Hakeem Jeffries or whoever, and say, "Put my bill on the floor, and and I'll guarantee you I have the votes." So that's the difference. Okay. Thank you. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low, 10 being high, how secure and safe is the Colorado ballot? 11. And oh, hi. Wouldn't you agree? 11. Maybe 12. Well, so again, Donald Trump is trying by executive order to take away our ability to do mail-in ballot. That's illegal. That's my new phrase. I've been using it all year. That's illegal. And already I believe Phil has sued, and so that will be overturned. I was once on a panel with a Republican colleague of mine, Greg Walden from Oregon, and we were on a panel about voting, and the moderator said, "What about mail-in ballots? Isn't that just fraught with misappropriation and fraud?" And Greg and I looked at each other. We're like, "No, both of our states have been using mail-in ballots for years. They're totally safe, and it will be upheld." Okay, what am I doing to get rid of Donald Trump? Oh, wait. No. Yeah. Well, I think I've pretty much outlined that. Okay. What am I doing to stop this administration from violating the Constitution and our laws? What can we do as individuals? Well, number one, I always say there's 3 C's. Some of you might have heard me say this. There's Congress, and I've sort of outlined what the Democrats in Congress are trying to do to stop this. There's the courts. And as I said, my new mantra, it's illegal. Pretty much everything he's done has been illegal. And what people don't realize, much of it has been stopped by the courts. A huge amount. I'm a member of, we started in the House a litigation task force, and I'm a lawyer by training and experience. So I joined the litigation task force, and we're doing 2 things. Number one, we are identifying issues where there's legal issues, and we're working with the lawyers. Like, for example, I've got Phil Weiser on my speed dial on my phone, and the day he said he was cutting our child care, I called him up. I go, "Hi, Phil, it's Diana." He goes, "Oh, hi." I said, "Have you filed your lawsuit on the child care yet?" And he said, "No, we've got it drafted. We're waiting to get the letter." And then I got a text from him the next day. "We got the letter. We filed the lawsuit." Then 2 days later, you'll recall the court stopped it. So that's the kind of stuff I've been doing. But also, we've been filing amicus briefs in cases that we think are of big importance. So we're doing a lot. But the 3rd C to what I'm talking about is citizens. And what that means is that all of us have the sacred responsibility of upholding our democracy. And at first, people thought, well, that sounds like pablum. What does that mean? But all the No Kings rallies, all of the speaking out, standing up. I know you guys have a really good. I know you stand out there on Alameda. I know it. I've seen it. And
452 people.
yeah. So good work, Windsor Gardens. But what does that really mean? Well, I'll tell you what it really means. In Minneapolis, they did that, and they chased ICE out. And I think, now I'm not saying they're not going to come to Denver, but I've been coordinating with the city council, the mayor, and the state legislature and our Democratic delegation. We are ready if ICE comes in, and you guys are our ground troops. And that's one reason why I don't think he's come in at that extent, because I think he's afraid what we would do in Denver, Colorado. So good for you. That's what we need to do to stand up. Okay. Say hello to Jasmine Crockett, and we support her. I love Jasmine Crockett. She's one of those new members I was talking to you about who I've been trying to support. So it'll be really interesting to see where Jasmine goes from here, because of course she's going to have to give up her House seat, because I think unless she gets people to clear the field. But she's quite a talented new member. Okay, answered that. What can you and Senator Bennett and Hickenlooper do to keep NCAR in Colorado, and also Joe Neguse, because it's in his district? We are I believe we filed a lawsuit because it's illegal, and we also are. But also, this is another thing, and it might sound counterintuitive, but we have always prided ourselves in the Colorado congressional delegation of working in a bipartisan way on issues that impact our state. And so I've been talking to the whole delegation, including the Republicans, about standing up for NCAR, for all of our other premier institutions in Colorado. And so they have been trying to work their contacts too. I'm not sure how successful they've been, but they do support these institutions for the most part. So that's what we're doing. Number 2, please have short messages on Facebook, etc. I see Senator Hickenlooper and Bennett, but not you. Talk about yourself. Okay, there's Jack. Grab him afterwards. He's my communications director. And also Bradley, too. Jack is from my official end, and Bradley is from my campaign end. But we are we have been really beefing up our social media presence on both the official and campaign end, because we know that that's where a lot of people are getting their news now. And so I hear what you're saying, and I am taking that to heart, and I will do an even better job of taking it to heart. Okay, let's see. Both as a voter and a ballot security worker for the Denver Election Commission, I've seen how fair and accurate our elections have been conducted. What is Denver willing to do to protect our voters from federal interference? Can our DPD, SWAT teams, and Denver Sheriff presence be increased, and perhaps Colorado National Guard be activated to keep ICE, FBI, and whatever Trump thugs away from our voters? So, good question, and I'm working with the mayor, the city council. I'm working with the Secretary of State. I'm working with the Election Commission, everybody, to make sure we have free and fair elections. We also need lawyers, so I know that the party will be signing up numerous volunteer lawyers. I expect in Denver we are not going to have problems like this, but I think we need to be ever vigilant. Okay, here's another question. What is the bare minimum behavior that can invoke the 25th Amendment, and who can invoke it? I explained who can invoke it. I would argue the bare minimum behavior is pretty much what Donald Trump is doing every day right now. All right, are we done? You guys, questions from the floor.
Oh, but you answered it. I was the in-car.
Oh, okay.
And the other.
Here, Mike has another one.
Okay, here you are. Donna has one.
Oh, Donna,
Thank you.
here.
I was wondering how many toss-up districts are there thought to be right now in the United States that we may be able to grab for the Democrats?
That's an excellent question. So the number keeps growing by the day. The question is, how many toss-up districts are there for the Democrats in the country? And based on the special elections that we have had, based on the special elections that we have had between the 2025 election and now, any Republican who won by less than 13 points, or any district that Donald Trump won by less than 13 points, is at risk, which means about 40 House seats. Now, let me tell you about last night, though. Did you see about this? Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat. This was a seat that Trump won by 37 points. And no surprise, the Republican won by 17 points. The Democrat outperformed it by 20 points. So we're not, but we're not taking, it's like me with this primary race, we are not taking anything for granted. We are working hard to get our message out to the American people. We're working hard to talk about affordability and how we're going to stand up against these wars and all of these tax cuts for the wealthy and corporations, and how we're going to restore sanity and normalcy and hold Trump accountable. We're going to be making these arguments every day between now and November. Yes, Donna.
Hearing you speak today is very, very inspirational.
Thank you.
And I'm wondering if your crew can somehow make you more present on social media. We see clips of Hakeem Jeffries. We see clips of really vocal people, but it would be great to see you on clips so that people know how what you're doing and how you're doing it.
I agree, and I am really working on the clips. I did 2 of them yesterday. I don't know if you saw them. They were about the war, about Trump's threats, but I'm working on it. Yes.
Anthropic announced today that they can right now eliminate 50% of jobs. AI can. Is Congress doing anything proactive to address this?
Yes, we actually have a bipartisan task force on AI, and we are trying to write legislation that is going to give clear lanes and oversight over AI. And what we're worried about is there's, the AI companies seem to be now self-selecting into 2 different camps. One that wants to do the right thing and to have ethical guidelines, and then the other that just thinks it's the Wild West. So we are hoping to have legislation that will do that. We're trying to do it in a way that will both help us harness the potential of AI, but also make sure that it is not used for ill purposes. Yes.
Hi, Congresswoman DeGette. My name's Dan Albers. You went to school with my sister Ann Albers, I think at St. John's.
Yes, I did.
And when you first started campaigning, my sister really believed in you, and she lived in Wash Park. And I remember my mom, who was Peggy Pugsley, the first woman on the Denver Water Board. My sister and I campaigned for you in Washington Park. That was a long, long time ago, but yeah, so glad you've been
Thank you.
around.
I also
so
super like your sweatshirt.
yes,
Okay.
That's why I wore it tonight. My question is about what is the feeling within Congressional, House, and Senate Democrats as far as the Republicans being so complicit and not doing their constitutional responsibilities and duties? And when you do take over the House and the Senate, let's hope the Senate too, what will be your feeling as far as working with Republicans in the future, because they have been so obstreperous and not willing to work now? Is there, because I don't think we can't do the time where you reach over across the aisle to get things done because of what they showed us. They're not capable of doing, just being complicit.
Well, I mean, they're a cult. That's what I think. They're a cult. And I have good personal relationships with many Republicans. And one thing I do on a personal basis, I call them out on it. Like, we'll get in the elevator with them after some crazy vote, and they'll go, and the doors will close, and they'll go, "Can you believe that?" And I'm like, I can believe it, but I can't believe you voted for it. What is the matter with you? So sometimes they don't get in the elevator now if they see that I'm in there. But But in truth, we do have to hold them accountable. The very best way to hold them accountable is to take their gavels away from them and to take their leader away from them in November. That's going to be the very best way to hold them accountable. And after that, then my feeling is, I'm always somebody, particularly on biomedical legislation, even on my maternal mortality legislation, I'm always somebody that has worked with Republicans. They have shown no interest in working with us on a bipartisan basis this year, unless they're trying to get us to vote for one of their crappy bills that has all of these poison pills in it. So, if I have a good bill, and it's a bill that I'm not going to put their crappy stuff in it, but if I have a good bill on reducing medical costs and reducing drug costs, and they want to go on that, okay, come on. Do the right thing for your constituents. But I'm not going to water my bills down for them. And I'm going to, but we also do have to have two chambers to pass bills. And so we have to, part of legislation, which we've strayed away from under Donald Trump, we have to get back to. Part of legislation is trying to negotiate a deal, but a good deal. And the thing I hate the most in Congress, this goes back to the question someone had about only two bills or whatever. I can pass a bill that says the Make America Great Again Act, and by Diana DeGette, and it would say, like, I'm going to make America great again. It says nothing. And people do this all the time. I call them fig leaf bills. I am uninterested in doing a fig leaf bill. If I see a problem, I don't want to just say I'm fixing it. I want to fix it. So that's my thinking on that. Yeah. Right here.
First, thank you for your service, Congresswoman. A couple of things. I mean, there's so many things, but the ceasefire didn't last more than 24 hours before the Strait of Hormuz is closed again. Okay. Ostensibly because Netanyahu wasn't a part of that agreement and continues to bomb Lebanon. I guess one of the frustrations that I see is that even though the courts continue to rule against Trump, the modus operandi that I see with this administration is we don't care what the courts will rule because they can't really stop us. We will go in and break things, and then it will be years before legislation or the rule of law actually has some kind of consequence. On top of that, when you're dealing with the billionaire class and the Epstein class, these people make so much money that when a judge finds them, it is a pittance. It means nothing to them. They can ignore it. Donald Trump doesn't have to pay E. Jean Carroll $34 million because no one is going to make him do it. And we see this so much that I just feel that what I was taught in civics, that the U.S. has equal protection under the law, isn't true at all. If you're ultra wealthy, the rules don't apply to you. So how do we speed up the gears of justice to make these people pay? Because if it were anybody else, if it were anybody in this room that did 1% of the things that Trump or the Republicans have done, their ass would be in jail.
That's right. Well, thank you. That was, well put. A couple of thoughts on that. The first one is most of the lawsuits that have been filed against Trump, it's been the E. Jean Carroll thing is an utter disgrace, and he needs to pay her that money. But with respect to his official actions, his executive orders, and so on, the courts have mainly issued injunctions stopping that. And one of the things the litigation task force has been keeping a very close eye on is if the Trump administration is actually disobeying those court orders. And there was one situation where they came close to the line and maybe went a little over the line, and that was the when they were deporting the people. Remember, they were deporting the people. The court told them to stop deporting the people, and then they deported them anyway. That was the one situation that was almost a constitutional crisis, but it did pull back. The other ones where the courts have issued injunctions, they have actually complied with that. You don't see that in the press, but they've done it slowly. So I'll give you an example. Remember when the Trump administration cut all the grants to research institutions like out at Anschutz? I was talking very, very closely to Anschutz about that, monitoring the situation. And they did eventually restore the grants. But it took a long time and it was slow. So that's part of the reason why we're keeping that pressure on. And then there were other situations, like USAID is a good example, where, remember, they shuttered USAID. I found out about this the Friday before he did it because I got a call from a friend of mine who was a contractor for USAID. And he said, what happened was he went and tried to draw on his money to make his payroll, and it was frozen. So he called me right away. And I said, it's illegal. Someone needs to go into court and sue them because it's illegal. And it took them a couple of months to figure out who had standing to sue them. And so they didn't sue them right away. And USAID has never been really restored, even though the court said it should be. So we just have to be ever, but that's why I keep Phil in my speed dial. We can't delay even for one instance. So yeah, a couple more questions.
I want to thank you for showing how effective you can be when the Democrats have no voting power.
Thank you.
But I can't support the idea of shutting down the government because it makes federal employees pawns, and it's not fair. And I'm wondering, when do you think that that the Democrats will vote to open the government again so that people can get paid?
So what has happened is all of the government is open right now. We did that end of the year budget, which we passed about a month ago. But all of the agencies are funded, and as I mentioned before, they're funded at good levels without the bad writers in it. The one agency that is not funded right now is Department of Homeland Security. Now, the federal employees under the Department of Homeland Security are being paid. This is part of what you don't see in the press. Is there are contingency funds at these agencies, and the president has the ability to use those funds. It's totally legal. One thing is legal, is to pay the employees. Trump decided not to pay the TSA employees, even though he was paying all of the other DHS employees, because he wanted to put pressure on the Democrats to not negotiate for what we want. And you know what? Frankly, I think that ICE should be defunded and dismantled. I don't think ICE is a legit. And by the way, when they formed Homeland Security, I voted against Homeland Security because I thought this is just a behemoth organization that's going to have a domestic military. Sadly, I was right. And so what I think, they could defund and dismantle ICE. Some of the things ICE does are useful, but I'm not sure how much ICE is doing them. For example, did you know ICE is supposed to be dealing with international human trafficking? How much of that work do you think they're doing right now? And so you could move that to another legitimate federal law enforcement agency. But in the meantime, what a lot of the Democrats have said is, at a very minimum, the agents should not be able to wear face masks. They should have to wear their names like any police officer does, and a couple other things. And they should have to get judicial warrants before they go busting into people's houses. I mean, I think that's a bare minimum. And so what I think is, I agree with you. I don't think federal employees should be used as pawns, but I also think we need, it's the one thing the Democrats have. Oh, by the way, though, the Republicans, they control the House, the Senate, and the White House. So if they actually wanted to do this, they could do this. Anyway, okay, two more questions.
I'm here, right here. So I would like to speak to AI. I saw something where this young kid put $20,000 into a business, and within 2 months, he was making $1 billion. In about 4 months, he's going to be worth $22 billion. So AI is ingrained into our communities and the tech. And the end of it said, and we did all of this without a corporate staff.
I read that same article.
Yeah. And also I wanted to speak to, because of my past experience, I still get the research letters from Anschutz. And so one of the pieces I looked at was they cannot accept any foreign money anymore. And then some other terms were redone.
Right. Well, and this is part, when I'm the chair of Energy and Commerce next year, I'm going to fix all of that, because that is hurting our ability to do international research partnerships, which, as you know, is so critical towards finding cures to these diseases. Yeah.
So I am a Windsor Gardens resident, but I haven't been here all the time since you've come here. I'm just getting to know you tonight. And what I really want to address, because I heard your two other people who are running against you, I heard them talk, and I heard them talk about the number of bills that you've passed during your term. In listening to you, I think there's two really valuable members in Congress, the drivers and the collaborators. And what I heard you say is you're really good at collaborating. When someone brings something to your attention, you're like, I'll do it for you. Is there an instance where you can say you drove it from the beginning?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Number one, the kids' health bill, I drove that bill.
So someone didn't come to you, because I thought you said
No. What I said is they're talking about doing something on kids' health, and I said, and I shaped the bill, okay. I shaped the policy. But on 21st Century Cures, this was a mammoth bill. So it's true. Fred came to me and he said, we should do something in NIH. I'm like, okay, let's restructure the agency. And I'll never forget when we sat down. So we basically, we shaped it together. We shaped it together.
See, I hear a lot of collaboration in your talk, which is very valuable.
But collaboration and leadership.
Yeah.
We sat down with Francis Collins, who was the head of the NIH, and Francis, and we said, what do you need? What do you need to make your agency better? One thing I think as a member of Congress, I know this will shock you, I don't think I know everything. And so, particularly with biomedical research, I don't know what the National Cancer Institute needs in terms of restructuring to make it faster to find cancer cures. I have to that's how I operate. But that doesn't mean Francis Collins came to me and said, do this, Diana. I went to him. I said, what do you need to make this better? And he said, Well, our young researchers should really be able to go to our young researchers should really be able to go to conferences. Remember, cast your mind back when they banned young researchers from going to conferences because somebody had committed some well, anyway. So I said, Francis, we'll let your researchers go to conferences, but if that's all we do, then we will have failed because we have to do a huge piece of legislation. And so Fred and I did do this with another person, but we did it together, and we rejected ideas and we accepted ideas. When I'm the chair of the health subcommittee the next time, I will have the power to say we're going to pass legislation to reduce prescription drug prices. And I have a pretty good idea myself. I know we don't have another hour, so I will not go into the details. But I have a good idea of the problems with why prescription drugs are so high right now. And it is my intention, when I'm the chair of that committee and the power with the gavel to convene, I'm going to do a process similar to what Fred and I did with NIH, but to craft legislation to reduce the cost of prescription drugs. And I think that's the best way to make legislation. Because so is that being a collaborator? Is that being a leader? It's both. It's leading, but bringing in people to collaborate. Okay. Thank you, everybody.